All right, we're getting close. Have a listen to this video from Tim Dwyer. Unbelievable amount of resource information comes out of this man. Very good educator. But then have a listen to Frank from Hood's Law, another warrior from another part of the country, fighting same. But then I'll add in the part about the Interpretations Act that I learnt off Romley and off Rowan, and just see how slippery it is, where the best in the country are calling them out for the fraudulent nature of trading insolvent. And I believe that they're not, because we've signed up as the debtor and they use our SESQV trust as their equity or as their backing for their debt. So that's why I reckon he's right, but he's not giving them the credit for the system that they've got in the background.
Now, this is the document, the letters patent that created the office of the Governor-General by Queen Victoria, and on the bottom of it there is her seal. The seals are where the authority lie. It is in the seals and how the seals are granted and created. There it is. Now, in modern history, our last monarch before Charles was his mother, Queen Elizabeth. This was Queen Elizabeth's Great Seal. That was Elizabeth's seal. There she is upon the horse. Just like that was Queen Victoria's seal. This is Queen Elizabeth's seal. This is the seal that was given to us in 1973, or should I say, forced upon us in 1973, or should I say, snuck in 1973. The previous Great Seal of Australia, which was first authorised by royal warrant, was not, in 1973 by Gough Whitlam, Elizabeth II, Queen of Australia. Let's see. Now, this is the final report on a Constitutional Commission of 1988, Volume 2. The treasonous political parties are still trying to get the Queen of Australia recognised, as they have been using the Queen of Australia since 1973. Unlawfully, but they've been using it because it sounds about right. You know, we're busy, we've got football, we've got all sorts of stuff going on, and we haven't got time to worry about politicians and what dribble they come out with. That was the ethos back in the day. So if it sounded about right, it must have been about right. But it was all wrong. A bill for an act to alter the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act by omitting obsolete words and so as to recognise the Queen of Australia. Be it enacted by the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia with the approval of the electors as required by the Constitution as follows. What that means is, for this to come in, there must have been a referendum on each of these following points. Each point, because it alters the Constitution. This Act may be cited as the Constitution of Australia, Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1988. The Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act is altered by omitting the words. Now, remember what it said, obsolete words, right? Omitting of the words, be it therefore enacted by the Queen's most excellent majesty, that's the PowerPoint, that's where the energy is, the most excellent majesty, by and with the advice of the consent of the Lords Spiritual, Lords Temporal, and the Commons in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. They wanted to pull all that out. That's their theory. Get rid of the Crown, get rid of the Commonwealth. Next bit. Act extended to the Queen's successors. Section 2 of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act is altered by omitting of the words the United Kingdom and substituting the word Australia. You see, this is Gough Whitlam and Bob Hawke's socialistic, communistic, gradualism, wet dream to have Australia an absolute basket case that they control. Operation of the constitutional laws, Section 5 of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act is altered by omitting all the words after and including and the laws of the Commonwealth. Well, let's do that. Repeals Section 7 and 8. And one of the interesting things about Section 8 is it talks about the Colonial Borders Act, and it takes all the colonial borders out. The states' lines stay there, but they're no longer borders. There's no longer a need to show documents to cross the line, and there never will be again after what they did to us through COVID. But they took all this out. This is their way of doing things. The treasonous political parties under the guidance of Gough Whitlam created the abstract Queen of Australia in 1973. There's her sign, there's her seal there. Gough Whitlam created that. The Queen didn't create that. Gough did. There's the Queen's emblem, that's her seal. Come forward to the current day. Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia. Continued use of the Great Seal of Australia authorised for use by Royal Warrant 19th of October 1973. So the fraudulent seal, right? And now the General, the Honourable David Hurley, AC, DSC, retired, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, acting with the advice of the Federal Executive Council, because he gets told what to do by the council. He doesn't make his own mind up anymore. He's gone now. But the Executive Council tell him what to do. And under Section 61 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia, authorised the continued use of the Great Seal of Australia, which was first authorised for use by Royal Warrant 19th of October 1973, pending the granting of a new seal by King Charles III. So they were to get a new seal from King Charles III, which would have him standing there with a sword or a horse or something, but it would be his seal. Now, this was done in September 2022. So this has been in process for 2 years. And this is what they've got. I know for a fact that King Charles did not have one thing to do with the design of this thing. It looks like a big 50-cent piece, really. There is no monarch listed on there. There is no crown authority on that seal. That seal, what it actually is, and you have to get your head around this, that seal is the company seal of the corporate Commonwealth of Australia and nothing else. That seal only has authority over the employees of the corporate Commonwealth of Australia. That seal has no claim on you or me or anybody else living in this country. That is simply, look, I've got two companies, I've got two different seals. This is just a company seal for the corporate Commonwealth of Australia. Now, Rod Culleton, I'm going to go through this. I've shortened it down a fair bit. This was a Freedom of Information letter, and you can find these documents that I put up here. You'll find them on our website, ourtrueaustralia.com, and you'll find these documents, right, in their full, right? So, Mr. Culleton, Freedom of Information Act, decision letter. The purpose of this letter is to give you a decision about your request to access documents under the Freedom of Information Act 1982, which your submission to the Attorney General's Department, the Department. Your request on 2nd of September 21, you wrote the Department request access to the information regarding the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia and termination. On the 6th of September 21, you were advised that your correspondence have been provided to the relevant officers for consideration. On the 15th of September 21, an officer of the Department of Freedom of Information and Privacy Section acknowledged your request to B4. Now, here we go. In light of the letter of Mr. David Lewis dated the 16th of August 21 in response to my request for information dated 22nd of July 21, and my reference above regarding the authority to terminate the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia, I request the instrument that overrides, suspends or terminates the indissoluble federal Commonwealth under the Crown of the United Kingdom, as qualified by the second clause that binds the Crown and the fifth clause that binds the people, that ought to have been in place at the time, 1973, in making the change of authority to the Australian government. With reference to the termination of the Commonwealth by substitution of the jurisdiction taking to be solely under the authority of the Australian government without the Crown, I request the acknowledgement of the Australian people via the alteration by process of Section 128, referendum. Let's have a referendum. Do you want to change the Great Seal? Right? It's part of the Constitution, or otherwise termination of the Commonwealth and substitution in current practice today. With reference to the termination of the Commonwealth, I request the publication of sufficient notice to the Australian people of that change. In light of the current text of the Constitution and prefacing clauses, in the light of the celebration of the centenary of the Commonwealth held in 2001. So what they were asking for is, show us the referendum or the documents that allowed the Parliament, the then Parliament in 1973, to just terminate the Great Seal of the Commonwealth and change it to the Great Seal of Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Australia, the fictitious watery tart out of Lake Burley Griffin. To identify documents for your request, I arrange for staff likely to be able to identify documents to undertake comprehensive searches for the relevant department of electronic holdings, and in particular, a departmental staff member with responsibility for processing FOI requests, integrated the department's record management system using search terms which were developed with reference to the information provided in the scope of your request. Despite these efforts, no relevant documents were identified. They had no authority. There is no documents. There's no record of them doing it. They just went ahead and did it by stealth. They did it by fraud. They stole the country. And you were too busy playing football, meat pies, kangaroos, and holding cars. Well, that day's long gone. Long gone. You see, that's the fraud. Fraud and deception. The Public Governance Performance Accountability Act 2013. Today, there are two types of Commonwealth entities. Only one is lawful. A corporate Commonwealth entity, which is a Commonwealth entity that is a body corporate. Now, a body corporate can't make laws or rules or any of that stuff. But anyway, a non-corporate Commonwealth entity, which is a Commonwealth entity that is not a body corporate. So the non-corporate Commonwealth entity is the Commonwealth as you and I would expect it, as the ordinary man would understand it to be. The corporate Commonwealth entities are legally separate from the Commonwealth, whereas non-corporate Commonwealth entities are part of the Commonwealth. Now, hold on. This is going to get a little exciting. Just hold on, right? The legislative power of the Commonwealth shall be vested in the federal parliament, which shall consist of the Queen, a Senate and a House of Representatives, and which is hereinafter called the Parliament, or the Parliament of the Commonwealth, not the Parliament of Australia or the Australian Parliament. The Parliament of Australia or the Australian Parliament is wholly unknown within the Constitution. Why? It is a body corporate, a corporation acting as government. Now, the Fair Work Act says if you have an ABN number and you employ people, you're a corporation. Under the Australian consumer law, corporations are required with a written contract, wedding signature with all parties if you want to interact with each other, and full and total disclosure to every aspect of the contract to do business with anyone. If a state government tries to establish a local government ABN corporation is automatically regarded as a corporation, and it therefore cannot be government. Once a government body converts to a corporation, it cannot revert back to a government, so says the rules of the High Court, ex parte Boilermakers with Kirby. A corporation cannot create laws, enforce laws, raise taxes, or produce. So we're going to be asking, produce the laws and documents that evidence this is not the truth and fact of law. Interesting. So here's our Great Seal, created by the corporate.
And then you see what he was saying is that it's illegal for them to operate the way that they're operating, because only people that work for them would have to follow their rules. And when you see what the birthing certificate and the capital letters and like the tax file number and all that sort of stuff is basically signing you up to be a member or a worker of the corporation.
The Western Australian Acts and Amendment and Repeal, and in brackets Court and Legal Practices Act 2003. Now you have to go to Part 8, Section 121, the Bail Act 1982 amended. So the Acts and Amendment Repeal, blah, blah, blah. Section 4. Section 63 is amended by deleting the Crown and inserting instead State or Commonwealth. Okay? So right there, deleting the Crown, inserting State or Commonwealth. So in 2007, they brought in the Australian Citizenship Act, but this act was brought in 2003. This is Julia Gillard. So because it's a Labor Party, the wheels were set in motion back in the 70s with Whitlam, but the 86 Act was what severed the laws from the Crown, and then they kept going behind the scenes, right, through the state. This is what they do with the politicians' republic. So they start getting rid of the Crown, or they have got rid of the Crown, and they've replaced it with the word state or Commonwealth, and that's the Commonwealth of Nations. That's what they're referring to. They're not referring to the Commonwealth of Great Britain and all that. It's gone. Right.
So I'm trying to understand this legalese bullshit that they have out there, because it makes it very difficult to define where the corporatocracy finishes and where the living man and women start. Because when you define people as persons in any act, expressions used to denote persons generally include a body politic or corporate as well as an individual. You need to understand that as well as means something different. As well as means interchangeably used, but implies in addition to. As well as is a conjunction that means in addition to. So why is individual, as an corporate addition to? Why isn't it the way that it should be written, which would be includes a body politic, comma, corporation, comma, corporate entity, or an individual? I mean, that's got to be simple English to explain what they're trying to say when they're defining persons. But when you see that the only two options really are corporate including individual, that's when you start to wonder, what does that mean? And when you go back and have a look at some of the work of the likes of Romley Stewart and see that the small English written first name combined with the capitalized surname, when they pull those two together on one certificate, it is an incorporation. Think about that. Because then when you have a look at it and start to say that the inclusion of something as part of a whole, right? Incorporation. The inclusion of something as part of a whole. Incorporation. It's all written quite well, just making sure that we don't start questioning the way that we would speak. But we wouldn't write that ourselves. That's not how we would write it. In fact, if you write that sentence into any of the autocorrects, it'd probably fix it for you. Think about that. All right, so I'm trying to understand.
Hence why I say as well as, it means it includes it. Steak and chips, or steak as well as chips. Not steak or chips. Steak, comma, chips. Think about that. So, Wayne Glue, Tim Dwyer, Rod Cullerton, Romley Stewart, if you guys can all get together and make a little mud map of what the living and the dead look like in this system, we've got a real chance. And there's plenty more legends that are doing it over and above them, and I'm not just saying that they're the only ones, but they're the ones that I've been watching, they're the ones I've been learning from. And I reckon if these guys get together and find some common ground on how to defeat this enemy, living and dead, we're in with a real chance.